Every single person on this planet is chasing change. We want more success, more confidence, more freedom, more happiness. And deep down, we all ask the same question: what's the one thing that will finally make my life different? We look for secrets in books, in podcasts, in courses. We scroll endlessly on our phones hoping for an answer. We convince ourselves that someone else knows the magic formula, while we sit there waiting for our moment. But here's the truth: change doesn't come from luck. It doesn't come from talent. And it doesn't come from someone handing you a perfect plan. Real change comes from one habit. Just one. A habit so simple that most people overlook it. A habit so powerful that it can shift the entire direction of your life faster than you think. Imagine waking up tomorrow and feeling like a completely different version of yourself. Imagine being focused, disciplined, and unstoppable. That's what this one habit does. Most people never discover it. Others discover it but don't commit to it. And the few who truly master it, they change everything. Stay with me, because over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you what that habit is and how it can transform your life overnight. You've promised yourself 1,000 times that things would be different. You said, "Tomorrow I'll start." You said, "Next week I'll change." You even said, "This year will be my year." But here you are, still stuck, still procrastinating, still fighting the same battles you were fighting months ago, maybe even years ago. You tell yourself you'll wake up early, but when the alarm rings, you hit snooze. You tell yourself you'll eat healthy, but one stressful moment sends you reaching for junk food. You tell yourself you'll stay focused, but 10 minutes later you're scrolling, distracted, pulled into everyone else's life instead of building your own. And every time this happens, you feel the same sting of disappointment. That quiet voice inside says, "Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I'll never change." Let's be honest, it's not that you don't want it. You do. You want it more than anything. The life you imagine, the success, the freedom, the confidence, it burns inside you. But wanting isn't the problem. The problem is consistency. The problem is that you start strong, and then you fade. How many times have you signed up for the gym, only to stop after 2 weeks? How many times have you started a new routine, only to break it the first time life got busy? How many times have you tried to stay disciplined, only to let emotions take over? You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're human. And humans fall into patterns. The truth is, you've built habits, just not the ones that serve you. You've built the habit of procrastination, the habit of excuses, the habit of distraction. And like any habit, the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. That's why it feels like you're fighting a battle against yourself. One part of you wants to move forward. Another part keeps pulling you back. It's like pressing the gas and the brake at the same time. You burn out, but you don't move. And deep down, you know this is costing you. Every day you delay, you lose opportunities. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you lose trust in yourself. Every time you give in to procrastination, your confidence slips just a little bit more. Think about it. How many ideas have you had that you never started? How many times have you said, "I'll do it later," and later never came? How many times have you watched someone else succeed and thought, "That could have been me"? It's painful, because it's not about potential. You have that. It's not about desire. You have that too. It's about building the discipline to follow through. It's about breaking free from the cycle of starting and stopping, of promising and failing, of dreaming and never doing. You've lived long enough to know that motivation alone isn't enough. Motivation fades. Inspiration fades. That spark of excitement you feel on day one, it always dies, unless you replace it with something stronger. And that's why you've struggled. Not because you're incapable, but because you've been relying on the wrong fuel. You've been waiting for motivation when what you needed was a habit. And until you master this one habit, life will keep pulling you back. The distractions will keep winning. The excuses will keep winning. The old version of you will keep winning. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to stay that way. Because the same way you've built the habit of procrastination, you can build the habit of progress. The same way you've trained your brain to delay, you can train it to act. And once you do, everything begins to change. Here's where everything changes. Up until now, you've probably believed that success belongs to a certain type of person. The talented ones, the lucky ones, The people born with connections, resources, or some hidden advantage. And because of that belief, every time you struggle, you think, maybe I just don't have what it takes. But let me reframe this for you. Success doesn't come from talent. Success doesn't come from luck. And success doesn't come from waiting for the perfect conditions. Success comes from habit. Think about it. The strongest people you know weren't born disciplined. They became disciplined by doing the hard thing over and over again. The most confident people weren't born fearless. They built confidence through repeated actions. The most successful people didn't wait for motivation to strike. They created routines that carried them even when motivation was gone. Most people believe change requires massive effort. They think they have to completely reinvent their life overnight. They try to change everything at once: their diet, their schedule, their work, their relationships. And of course, they burn out. Because that's not how transformation works. The truth is, change doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing one thing, consistently. One simple action, repeated daily, becomes a force of nature. Imagine planting a single seed. At first, it's small, almost invisible. You water it once, and nothing happens. You water it the second day, still nothing. But you keep watering, you keep showing up, and then one morning, you see a sprout. Weeks later, it's a plant. Months later, it's a tree. That's what a habit is. A small, ordinary action that, through repetition, grows into extraordinary results. But here's the catch. Most people never stick around long enough to see the sprout. They water once or twice, then quit. They say it's not working. They don't realize that the change is already happening. Deep beneath the surface, even when they can't see it yet, you see. Motivation is like a spark. It feels powerful, but it burns out fast. Habit is like a fire. It keeps burning as long as you keep feeding it. And that's why people who rely on motivation fail, while people who rely on habit succeed. Motivation depends on how you feel. Habit depends on what you do. Motivation is emotional. Habit is mechanical. Motivation is temporary. Habit is permanent. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people decide to get fit. The first person says, I'm going to get motivated. I'll work out when I feel inspired. They start strong, but after a week, they miss a day. Then two, then a week. Soon, they're back at zero. The second person says, I'm going to make exercise a habit. I'll do it every morning at 7 a.m., no matter how I feel. At first, it's uncomfortable. At first, they hate it. But after a few weeks, it's automatic. It becomes part of who they are. And before long, the results are obvious. The difference isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't even motivation. The difference is habit. And here's the most powerful part. Once you build one habit, it creates momentum for everything else. You start waking up earlier, and suddenly you eat better. You start focusing on one task, and suddenly you get more done in every area. Habits multiply. They spread. One consistent action has a domino effect that reshapes your entire life. This is why people who look unstoppable aren't actually superhuman. They're just consistent. They've built habits that carry them forward when their emotions tell them to quit. So the question isn't, do you have the talent? The question isn't, do you have the motivation? The real question is, are you willing to build the habit? Because if you are, everything else will follow. Success, confidence, progress, growth, they're not the result of who you are. They're the result of what you repeatedly do. And that's the shift I want you to see. Massive change doesn't require massive effort. It requires one consistent action, repeated until it becomes automatic. Once you understand this, success is no longer a mystery. It's a system. It's predictable. And it's available to anyone, including you. By now, you're probably wondering, what is this one habit that can truly change my life overnight? I've told you it's not talent. I've told you it's not luck. I've told you it's not waiting for motivation. So what is it? Take a deep breath, because the answer might sound almost too simple at first. But don't confuse simple with easy. The one habit that changes everything is the habit of daily repetition, not random effort, not occasional bursts of energy. Daily repetition, doing the right thing, the small thing, the important thing every single day. Without fail, that's it. That's the domino habit, the foundation that transforms your life. Now, let me explain why this works. When you repeat something daily, it becomes automatic. It stops being a decision and starts being a part of your identity. And that's where real transformation happens. Because what you repeat, you eventually become. Think of an athlete. The greatest basketball players in the world don't practice free throws once a week. They take hundreds of shots every single day. Not because they're motivated every day, but because repetition wires excellence into their muscles, their reflexes, their very DNA. Think of a world-class musician. They don't just pick up their instrument when they feel inspired. They play every day, even when they don't feel like it. That's why their fingers dance across the strings, why their timing is flawless, why their art looks effortless. It's not magic, it's repetition. Think of entrepreneurs, the ones who build lasting companies. They didn't wake up one morning with a billion-dollar idea fully formed. They built habits of showing up, testing, failing, learning, and repeating the process daily. That habit of consistent repetition, of staying in the game, is what separates them from everyone who quits after the first setback. But let's make it even more relatable. Think about your own life. If you've ever tried to get fit, you know this truth already. Going to the gym once won't change you. Eating healthy for a single day won't change you. But repeat it day after day and suddenly your body transforms. The same is true with your mind. Read one page of a book and nothing happens. Read 20 minutes a day, every day, and a year later your thinking, your vocabulary, your mindset, it's all elevated. Repetition is the architect of identity. Every action you repeat casts a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Now here's where it gets powerful. Daily repetition creates a domino effect. Because once you master one habit, it starts to influence every other area of your life. For example, let's say you commit to the simple habit of waking up early every day. At first, it just feels like more time. But soon, that extra hour allows you to exercise. Then exercising gives you more energy, which helps you focus at work. Focus at work leads to better results, which increases your confidence. And that confidence influences how you show up in your relationships. One small daily habit repeated has now transformed your health, your career, your confidence, your relationships. That's the domino effect of repetition. Here's another example. A young writer once committed to writing just one page every day. Just one. After a year, they had 365 pages, the first draft of a book. That book led to opportunities, speaking engagements, and eventually, a career as a published author. All from one page a day. That's the kind of power repetition holds. But let me be clear, repetition isn't glamorous. It isn't exciting. In fact, it often feels boring. But boring is the price of greatness. Repetition is where the extraordinary hides inside the ordinary. Think about Michael Jordan. People remember his championships, his highlight reels, his game-winning shots. But what they don't see are the thousands of hours he spent in empty gyms, practicing the same move over and over again until it became second nature. That was his habit. Daily repetition. Think about Serena Williams. Her power and precision didn't come from talent alone. It came from years of disciplined practice, hitting the same shots, running the same drills day after day, long before anyone was watching. Or think about Elon Musk. People see his companies Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and they assume he's a genius who simply had great ideas. But ask anyone close to him, and they'll tell you his real advantage is repetition. Working relentlessly every single day, refining his vision, testing, failing, learning, repeating. The pattern is undeniable. Across athletes, leaders, entrepreneurs, the difference isn't intelligence or luck. It's repetition. It's the simple willingness to do something every day, even when it feels small, even when no one is watching. Now, let me ask you a question. What's the one habit you've been avoiding? Maybe it's waking up earlier. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's moving your body, eating cleaner, or simply sitting in silence for 10 minutes to clear your head. Whatever it is, the secret isn't doing it perfectly. The secret is doing it daily. Because once repetition takes over, the weight of the habit shifts. At first, you push the habit, but eventually, the habit pushes you. It carries you forward. And that's why I say this habit can change your life overnight. Not because everything transforms instantly, but because the moment you commit to daily repetition, your identity shifts. In that very moment, You stop being someone who tries and you start being someone who shows up. That mental shift, that identity shift happens overnight. The results take time, yes, but the decision, the commitment, the new identity that happens the moment you choose repetition. From that point forward, life is no longer about what you feel like doing. It's about what you always do, and that's when you become unstoppable. So now you know the habit that changes everything is daily repetition. But knowing it isn't enough. The real question is, how do you actually live it? Because theory without action is just another idea collecting dust. So let's break it down into 5 practical steps. These steps are simple, they're doable, and if you commit to them, they'll help you build repetition into your daily life until it becomes automatic. Step 1. Most people fail because they start too big. They try to overhaul their entire life in 1 week. They want to go from 0 to perfect overnight. But perfection is the enemy of consistency. Here's the truth. Success is built on small, repeatable actions, not giant leaps. Small steps, done daily, create unstoppable momentum. So instead of saying, I'm going to work out 2 hours a day, start with 10 minutes. Instead of, I'm going to read 50 pages a night, start with 2 pages. Instead of, I'll wake up at 4 a.m., start by waking up 15 minutes earlier. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing something and doing it consistently. Remember this, small is sustainable. Sustainable is powerful. Step 2. Repetition works best when you tie it to something you already do. That's how you lock it into your life. For example, if you want to start journaling, do it right after brushing your teeth. If you want to practice gratitude, do it every time you sit down for breakfast. If you want to exercise, make it the very first thing you do when you wake up. We call this habit stacking. You stack a new action on top of an old one. That way, you don't have to fight for willpower every day. The old habit triggers the new one. Think of it like this. Your life already runs on routines whether you realize it or not. The key is to piggyback your new habit onto a routine that's already locked in. That's how you build repetition without friction. Step 3. Let's be honest, life will always give you excuses. I'm too tired. I'm too busy. I'll start tomorrow. But repetition means showing up even when it's inconvenient. So the trick is to make your habit so easy to start, you can't talk yourself out of it. Lay your workout clothes out the night before. Put your book on your pillow so you can't go to bed without seeing it. Turn off notifications so your phone doesn't steal your focus. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your systems should make the right choice the easy choice. So don't just rely on willpower. Build your environment so that repetition becomes natural. Step 4. Here's where the mental shift happens. Most people approach habits with a heavy sigh. I have to do this. But that mindset kills motivation. It makes your habit feel like punishment. So reframe it. Don't say, I have to. Say, I get to. Not, I have to work out, but I get to move my body and grow stronger. Not, I have to read, but I get to feed my mind with ideas that can change my future. Not, I have to wake up early, but I get to own my morning before the world makes demands on me. This simple reframe turns discipline into privilege. It transforms repetition from a chore into an opportunity. And when your mind shifts, your consistency skyrockets. Step 5. The brain loves progress. It craves evidence that your efforts are working. That's why tracking your habit is so powerful. Mark an X on your calendar every day you complete your habit. Use a habit tracking app or keep a simple checklist. The method doesn't matter. What matters is seeing your streak grow. Because when you see those marks add up, you don't want it to break the chain. That visual proof becomes its own motivation. And don't forget to celebrate. Not with huge rewards, but with small acknowledgments, a smile, a fist pump, a whispered, yes, I showed up again today. Because here's the secret. You don't celebrate the results. You celebrate the repetition. You celebrate the fact that you're becoming the kind of person who shows up every single day. And when you celebrate repetition, you reinforce it. You tell your brain, this matters. Do it again now. Let's put it all together. Start small. Anchor it. Remove excuses. Reframe it. Track it and celebrate it. That's how you take the habit of daily repetition and make it stick for life. Remember, you don't have to do everything perfectly. You just have to do something consistently And every time you repeat that action, you cast another vote for your future self. You cast another vote for the person you're becoming. That's why repetition is so powerful. It's not about the action itself, it's about the identity it builds. You're no longer someone who tries. You're someone who does. And that one shift, that's where unstoppable growth begins. Now I want you to imagine something. Picture yourself 6 months from now. You open your eyes in the morning not with dread, not with exhaustion, but with energy. Your alarm rings, and instead of hitting snooze, you rise. Because waking up on time is no longer a battle, it's simply who you are. You step into the day with clarity. There's no chaos, no scrambling, no racing against the clock. You've built habits that give you control of your time, and that control gives you confidence. You walk into challenges not with fear, but with focus. Where once you would have doubted yourself, now you stand tall. Because repetition has trained your mind to believe in your own strength. You've proven to yourself, day after day, that you can show up. And when you've shown up hundreds of times before, why would today be any different? Now imagine looking in the mirror. You see discipline in your posture, pride in your eyes. You see someone who doesn't wait for motivation, someone who doesn't need permission. You see someone unstoppable because repetition has built you from the inside out. Think about your work. Projects that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable because you've built the habit of starting, of taking one step, of showing up every day. The mountain that used to intimidate you, you've been climbing it piece by piece, and now the summit is in sight. Think about your relationships. You're more present, more patient, more grounded. Why? Because the discipline you've built for yourself spills into every area of your life. You listen more. You react less. You carry yourself with calm confidence, and people can feel it. Picture the moment when someone close to you notices. They look at you and say, "You've changed. You're different. You're stronger." And deep down, you know they're right. Because the person you are now is not the person you were 6 months ago. Now imagine a year from now. You've repeated the actions so many times that they no longer feel like effort. They feel like identity. You don't just do the habit, you are the habit. You are disciplined. You are focused. You are consistent. You are unstoppable. And that unstoppable version of you doesn't just achieve more, it becomes more. That's the power of repetition. It doesn't just give you results, it gives you a new life. A life where you wake up with purpose, move with confidence, and rest with peace knowing you've lived the day fully. That life isn't some distant dream. It's not reserved for the lucky or the talented. It's available to you right now, and it begins the moment you commit to showing up every single day. Close your eyes for a second and feel it. Feel the energy of a disciplined life. Feel the freedom that comes from self-control. Feel the pride of knowing you've kept your promises to yourself. That's the life waiting for you. And it all begins with one habit: daily repetition. Now we've come full circle. You know the struggle. You've felt the pain of inconsistency. You've seen how repetition changes everything. You've imagined the life that could be yours. But here's the truth. None of it matters if you don't act. Change doesn't take years. It doesn't require waiting for the perfect time. It doesn't depend on motivation showing up tomorrow morning. Change begins the moment you decide. Right here, right now. So let me ask you, when will you stop saying someday and start saying today? Because today is all you really have. And what you do with today will decide who you become tomorrow. Don't overthink it. Don't complicate it. Don't tell yourself you'll wait for Monday, or the new month, or the new year. That's the trap that's kept you stuck. You don't need the perfect plan. You just need one simple action, repeated daily. That's it. So choose your action. Maybe it's writing one sentence. Maybe it's doing 10 push-ups. Maybe it's reading 2 pages. Maybe it's waking up 15 minutes earlier. Small doesn't matter. Consistency does. And here's the beautiful part: you don't have to wait months to feel the difference. The moment you repeat that action today, you'll feel it. You'll feel the pride of keeping your word. You'll feel the power of momentum beginning. You'll feel the identity shift happening inside you. Because from that very first repetition, you're no longer just someone who tries. You're someone who shows up. You're someone who leads. You're someone who wins. That's who you are now. So I'm challenging you. Before this day ends, take one action. Plant the seed of repetition. Cast that first vote for the person you want to become. Don't just listen to these words, live them. Don't just feel inspired, act on it. Because inspiration without action fades, but repetition builds a future. You've spent enough time waiting, enough time doubting, enough time promising yourself change someday. Someday is dead. Today is alive. So act right now, because the moment you do, you'll prove to yourself that change doesn't take years. It begins in a single decision, repeated until it becomes unstoppable. And that decision, that power is in your hands right now. So rise, show up, begin the repetition, and become the person you were always meant to be.